Good afternoon. Welcome to the Columbus Metropolitan Club. Hi, Greg. In 1976, 13 visionary women came together to form CMC to connect people and ideas through community conversation. 48 years later, that conversation is still going strong. CMC explores public policy issues, current events, and spotlights lessons in leadership at forums just like the one you're at today, every week. From its beginning, CMC has welcomed everyone. My name's Lisa Hinson of Hinson Limited Public Relations. I'm also proud to serve as a member of the board of the CMC trustees. For those of you joining us by live stream, we're coming to you today from our beautiful home in downtown Columbus historic Italian Village. We're at the Ellis today. So we're so grateful to the sponsors of today's forum who have made this possible. That includes the Harrison Smith Legacy and Civic Engagement Fund, Downtown Columbus Incorporated, the Edwards Companies, and Rockbridge. Can I please get a round of applause for this group of sponsors? It goes without saying that these conversations cannot happen without people coming forward to bring resources to the table. So I want to just special thanks to all of those who made today happen. I also want to say thank you to the presenting sponsor of our live stream, which is the Center for Human Kindness at the Columbus Foundation, and our live stream partner, the Columbus Dispatch. And again, thank you to our friends here at the Ellis. And again, wouldn't happen without all of you, so we appreciate that very much. So today's forum, From Vacant to Vibrant, the Future of Retail in Downtown Columbus. Can downtown retail make a comeback in Columbus? With a panel of downtown leaders and advocates, we'll unpack the newest effort to re-energize downtown and much more as we explore what's coming next for retail in the heart of our city. It's my great pleasure to introduce today's incredible panelists. Please welcome Columbus City Council member Nicholas Bankston. They actually have your middle initial in here too. Amy Taylor, president of Downtown Columbus Incorporated. Jimmy Merkel, CEO and co-founder of Rockbridge. And our host, returning once again to CMC, Jessica Ralston, anchor of Good Day Columbus on ABC 6 and Fox 28. Jessica, welcome back to CMC, and we look forward to today's conversation. I'm turning it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, afternoon. For me, it's evening because I get up at 2 a.m. It's happy hour time for moi. But good to see you all again. The last time I was here, we talked about downtown development. I've been here for almost 9 years. I live downtown. I'm very passionate about downtown Columbus. And I think there's great things going on, but I travel a lot to a lot of cities, and I see the way things are done there, especially when it comes to retail and development. So I always look at things here and see where there's room for improvement, as I'm sure a lot of you do. And that's what we're going to discuss today. And I think it's a great audience that's come together for this specific topic. And we'll just put everyone in the hot seat, hardball questions at them. We're going to lob them one after another. Don't feel any pressure. I'm kidding. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. Let's start with this to get a better idea of who's in the audience today. How many of you regularly shop or spend your time in downtown Columbus? Raise your hand. It's a great showing. Good crowd. All right. Raise your hand specifically if you routinely shop. Okay. Dine. Yeah, I would expect that to be a big one. Entertainment, we're talking athletics and other concerts and venues. Okay, good crowd. It's good to see. All right, we're going to start with a question for all of you, so you each get a chance to answer. We know that retail and other sectors took a hit during COVID. A lot has changed over the years. Each of you give us a quick overview of how you see our retail landscape. What do you think is working and what isn't working to get us to where we need to be? We'll start with you, Councilman.
Well, thank you to CMC for hosting us today, to all the sponsors. Really excited about this conversation. And I do want to level set a little bit. When we talk about retail, and particularly in a place like downtown, really what we're talking about is ground floor commercial activity. Retail is the, I think, catchphrase that we use, but typically when we say the word retail, folks think of shopping, or they think of that kind of traditional retail. But really what we're going after is how do we activate the ground floor level? That could be experiential, whether it be bars, restaurants, coffee shops. It could be actual retail, like we talked about with traditional goods and services. But it could also be new things that we are looking to explore. And so I think what has happened and what has shifted the landscape in retail, particularly after COVID, is really a demand for more unique, authentic, and local experiences. Things that you're not going to get off of Amazon or online. So much of a rise in delivery and services coming directly to your door has stifled some of the traditional retail that we would think of, right? But I know what makes a difference and what makes downtown successful is that unique store that you don't see anywhere else. Like no one goes to, I don't go to conferences in Boston like, man, they had a great Target in downtown, right? You know? So you think about what are those unique local things, and I think that's what you have to really cultivate, and you have to curate as well to make sure that it has that great balance. And so I think where where retail or ground floor activity is going is around those more unique and local experiences, not so much the big box things that we would see in other cities or in past retail development.
I definitely think a lot changed with COVID. The council member brought up some good points. I think that taught us all how to shop online if we weren't already there. But I think I'm not sure that we were hitting the full stride with retail before COVID. I think it has been a long time goal of organizations like the City of Columbus and Downtown Columbus Inc. to try and bring retail back. I mean, we can go back to the days of City Center in the late 80s, early 90s, but really all that did was kill everything around it because it was a big box where big box really, that's not where that belongs. And so I think this moment in time in the 2022 strategic plan really allowed us to take a look at the inherent problems that downtown retail has and to really be intentional about helping to solve them. One of the key things we can do, and the community told us this, is have more residents. ULI recently did a study and they say office workers actually don't help retail because they're not spending a lot of time shopping downtown. They may run out and get lunch, but they're not actually helping traditional retail. It's the residents. It's people want to walk to a place to shop. They want to walk to get something like a market. They want to go get something to clean their towels or buy towels. And I think that that's what we are working on and some of the projects that we've really intentionally begun to look at. And that means seriously looking at some of the challenges and figuring out how to overcome them. But it's also trying to make sure that the market is there. I think retail is one of the few things that it is very hard to incentivize our way out of.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Jimmy Merkel with Rockbridge, and we're a hospitality-centered investment firm, and we just started investing in Columbus and working with our first hotel here at the Junto on the peninsula. And I wanted to start with that because what we do is we try to create experiences that where people want to be. And if you go to the Junto and you experience that, people are coming there for the destination and they want to be there. They want to meet there. And I think that's an example of what we need to do broader on the, I liked how Nick shared. It's about the activation, the ground plane activation, and creating a place where people want to be. No matter what we do, if we don't have people that want to be there, the ground floor and the creatives and the business owners, no matter how good they are, if they don't have people to patron their their stores, it's going to be tough for them to be successful. So what can we do is the question. What can we do as a community to improve the ability to be downtown and have people want to be there? I have ideas and thoughts, but there's a lot of things that have already happened that are I think in a lot of people's minds not happening fast enough, but there's a lot of work and coordination that it takes to make a downtown vibrant. And I think what Jeff Edwards did on Gay and High, if you go down there, I'm actually sad that the current's down in the wintertime. We got to figure out how to keep it up. It changed that corner, and if you're down there, the vibrancy, and and there are lots of plans to emanate out from there, but if you have a place where people want to be and there's a destination and things to do, it makes a big difference in success. But we gotta grow beyond that.
If I could just jump in, I love what Jim said about the placemaking part. So we've been working, the council member and DCI in the city about figuring out how to fill those spaces. But the greatest part about Gay and High and what's happened, and I totally agree with Jimmy that I'm sad. I look at that current every day when I drive by, and I'm sad when it's gone because it's such a placemaking. It brings the ceiling down. It's the beacon that you can say, I know that I've arrived somewhere. And then to see what's flourished from beyond that, I think it really reminds us that it's not just what's inside, it's the journey to get there, and it's the experience in getting there.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying too around that curated piece of it as well is that retail is not going to come back the way that it was before COVID. I think there were in many parts of our city, there was an oversaturation of retail. And that's because, again, you had to go to the store to get what you need. Now there's so many other options to buy. So now it's about both placemaking and also making sure that the retail offerings that are there are curated in a way that makes that a true experience.
Well, you speak of those experiences, Jim, you kind of answered the question we were going to ask about Gay Street, because I'm sure you've all seen what's happening over there. A huge new apartment building and residential spaces on one side of the street, and then the new restaurants, Hank's, and there's more coming in, and there's art galleries, I believe, moving in on that street as well, but a lot of that space has sat empty. I mean, I lived at Gay and High for years, and I was like, come on, let's get this going over here. And now, I walk over there, I'm kind of jealous that I'm not there now. What specifically drew you to that corridor? And did you see this is a chance for us to kind of do what's happened at the peninsula as well? It's kind of the same thing to me now. You're building in.
Talking specifically about
Gay Street, because and also
So
I know a lot of people would like to see
I
that.
think that's really simple. We again, I'm sure Jeff doesn't want me to talk about him too much, but he had a vision and he was pushing it, and he cared about Columbus, and you get attracted to that. That attracts capital. That attracts investment in the area, and so. That was a little bit of a risk, but it's working because you saw that he could share the vision, and then the city was getting involved with the Capitol line and extending that. People that care about the arts and extending, what the Current has done for that location, but extending that along the Capitol line. So you can see the vision, and if we've learned anything, I think, when did we start on the Junto? It was probably 2018?
17.
Yeah, 2017, 18. And I hadn't been down there, and they shared the vision, and it was an incredible opportunity to have 20 acres undeveloped in your downtown with the amount of infrastructure, riverfront, parks. But that's 2018, and I'm bumping into people in 2024 that have not been down there. And so it takes a while to get things going, but we got a lot of momentum, and we need to continue to do things. I give this example. We had a head of development in North America for one of the largest hotel companies in the world, and they were here, and we were having dinner at Hank's, and they wanted to see our merchant project at the North Market. And I said, let's just walk. And talk about ground floor lack of activation. On that walk from Gay and High to the convention center was really tough. It was not the experience that's going to attract big investment into the city. And so we just have to be really thoughtful. What can we do to be really intentional about certain areas of downtown so that they can be successful? If they're successful in those areas, then it will grow organically because people will be coming down and creating the next destination, the next experience. And, you know, Nick was talking about shopping or retail. I think about it as an experience. What can you get? People want to get off their phones. They want to go experience something that is unique and bespoke. And so what can we do to continue to create and create experiences for people that you can't just get shopping online? Whether it's shopping, whether it's art galleries, whether it's public art or restaurants for sure. How do we continue to build on that? And there's a lot of opportunity.
Move ahead. Can you give everyone a quick update on the status of the merchant building and that project, and what's the status right now?
Have you been by the parking lot? It's a lot of concrete. We're up 10 stories, and we'll be finished in 2 years from now, end of 26.
Jimmy talked about, I think, 3 really important things. And the first one is it's helpful if you have a mass. So when you talk about Gay and High, Jeff controlled a lot of those corners. He invested in it early, so there was a lot of investment, starting with Veritas and bringing them down, then Spec, then Chouette, Hanks, and everything that's going to happen. The galleries that are there, Sarah Gormley, the other galleries that are coming in. So it could be layered upon each other. And when I bring my friends down, they think it happened in a snap, and I think the team at this table would tell you that it happened over a decade. And I think that's the second point. Progress takes time when you're talking about development. The peninsula, we started in 2018. We're just done with phase 1. We're in the middle of working on phase 2, and that phase 2 is going to include a grocery store, more residential. We've got a lot of things in the works there, but we're still only on phase 2, and phase 1 took 5 years. And then the other thing that he talked about was, I think you need belief of the public sector. The infrastructure has to be there. You can have the best site in the world, but if you can't have utilities to it, if you can't have ingress and egress, if you can't get it past inspection, it doesn't matter. Now, the nice thing I think that we're looking at downtown is, instead of taking a look at flat blocks, we're actually investing in the historic stock that's there and trying to transform it. And when you walk down Gay Street, that is one of the coolest experiences. We didn't tear all of those down like we did along Broad Street. And you walk there and it feels human scale. And so that's why I think one of the reasons that Gay Street has been one of the most successful retail districts we've had.
And I'll just say, I think that Gay and High really is the center of downtown. One of the challenges with our downtown, and I'm sure this will come up in a question, is it is one of the largest downtowns by square miles and acreage in the entire country. And I don't think a lot of folks realize that, right? And so when we talk about this type of development or curating experiences, it has to be nodal development, right? It's not going to be an entire street of retail, but it's going to be these nodes that all have their own distinct identities, and things like the Capitol line that connects all of those experiences. But it's just like in any other type of community development exercise. We call it the ABCDs. It's asset-based community development. You start from strength, right? You don't just start in the middle of anywhere. Gay and High already had this longevity and this organic sense of things that were happening there. So you have to start from that strength, supercharge it, build from it, and as Jimmy said, it radiates out from there. And so I'm really excited about Gay and High, not only because my office is only a block away, so thank you, Jeff, for giving me great places to go have lunch and have meetings, but it truly is, I think, the intersection of our community, and tells a story of where we're going and where downtown's going.
When we talk about gains, I think we should also bring up some losses. Most specifically and recently, we're losing Milestone, which has been down there for 14 years, and they said that was due to a lease disagreement with the city. Can you tell us what happened?
I can't, but
I didn't think so.
my friends from the administration are here. They may be able to tell you. No, I think that, when we talk about leases and all of that is a negotiation, and it's a time. And I think that what some may see as a loss, I see as opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to maybe look at that space differently, to think about what can that space be envisioned as. And 14 years is a great run. Milestone was an amazing place, but I don't think it's the end to that specific space. I think it's the rebirth of something that is coming, and it's reminiscent of our downtown in general. It is constantly evolving. It's a living, breathing thing, and so I think to have new opportunities, I'm excited for that opportunity and that challenge.
What do you see as barriers to bringing more retailers downtown specifically?
I think that one of the things, and that you had hit on about where is the trends in retail, one of the things I think we are looking at as a city is that we have to be intentional about investment, understanding that this adage that if you build the rooftops, then the retail comes. We are in really a chicken and egg and chicken type of situation in downtown where you have to have both. And I say that because our downtown is evolving from being simply a job center to truly being a 24-hour neighborhood with more residents, more residential. And so for that to be the case, you then have to have the amenities of choice. And so typically, before the pandemic, folks were choosing to go live in downtown primarily because, one, they're either empty nesters, or two, it was closer to their work. And they went to work in office towers Monday through Friday. But now with hybrid work schedules and the ability to work from home, now it's going to be a matter of choosing where you want to live. And we want downtown Columbus to be a place that you choose to live. And in order to do that, you have to have the amenities and the vibrancy that folks want out of their window, or when they're going, working from home or what have you, having those amenities. So I think that they're not necessarily more challenging, there are opportunities. I know one of the things that we're looking at is parking, for sure. That is simply, it's just a Columbus and Midwestern thing. I don't understand this. Guys, we travel other places, and y'all know this because y'all go to Chicago, you go to all these big cities, y'all park somewhere, walk 5 blocks, and you're okay. And you get home here in Columbus, you want to park right in front of the door, and if you don't got a spot right in front of the door, you call and say, well, they didn't have parking, so that's why I didn't go to the event. It's okay to walk, okay? It's going to be okay. But we're working on parking as well, and thinking about parking of how do we either subsidize it, or how do we have some type of incentive that we see like in Short North and other districts as well. So I think parking is a piece of it. And then also, again, bringing on more residential to balance out the office that we are not necessarily losing, but right-sizing. And how do we convert some of that to residential and more flexible workspaces as well?
All right. Amy, I would think it would be cool if you could touch on, for everyone in the audience today, the ground floor program. Explain what it means and how it's working for the city.
Great, thank you. In 2022, the City of Columbus and Downtown Columbus Inc. did a downtown strategic plan, and the community was really clear. They did not mince words. They said that we needed to focus on a few things, and one of them was residential. They said that for everything else, if you want to get people to visit here and you want to get people to work here, if you solve the residential problem, everything else will follow. It's like the council member said, if we create that environment that people are willing to live here, then if you come in for work, whether it's 3 days or 4 days, you're going to have all the places that you could take advantage of. But the other thing they said very clearly is that downtown has to be that intersection for everyone. It's the nexus of believable belongingness. And a lot of the people from the community specifically referenced the fact that they felt retail was too hard for small women and minority-owned businesses. They felt there were, addition to the regular barriers of retail downtown, like loading and parking and rents, they also felt like if you were a small business that was owned by a woman or a small business owned by a minority, you had additional barriers. So we came to the council member and Mayor Ginther and said, hey, we would really like to explore something of how to solve this. And interestingly enough,
she was bugging my office. And I started in 2022 in January, and we were brainstorming this, and then Amy comes in with the plan and talks. I was like, is there a bug in my office, or what's happening here?
It was so perfect because it was great minds think alike, and there was no, I think my colleague Greg Davies can say, he and I were like, how are we going to sell the city on this? And I think the council member was like, how are we going to sell DCI on this? So it was a great experience. And what that program does, is we went through a curation program. We've got some of our partners here. We've actually got one of our tenants here, and a landlord. And so we said we were going to go out and look for tenants who wanted to be in a dense residential neighborhood, and we chose Gay Street. So like Nick said, it had to be that node. We went to landlords and had to get them on board first. We went to tenants and had them apply, and then we did a little matchmaking. And so right now we've approved 5 tenants. 3 of them are in their business right now, and 2 of them are being built right now and will open in early 2025 and mid 2025. So the nice part is we got 3 Bites Bakery, which is a Filipino-Italian bakery. It was something I never knew I needed and now can't live without. We've got Black Kahawa Coffee, and that just recently opened on the corner of Broad and High. And he's got a great story because he is selling delicious coffee and delicious coffee drinks. But more than that, he's selling an experience, and that's what the council member was referencing. You don't just want it, you can get your coffee anywhere, but if you could better understand where the beans came from, if you understood the journey that the coffee went through, and that's really what Douglas is doing at Black Kahawa. And then we've got Quincy, and he's got Quality Wellness right on the corner of Long and Gay, and he's going to do great things in that space. It's an Edwards space. And then we've got 2 others that are going to go in the first floor of the Nicholas building, not to give you too much FOMO. But we've got Evolvery, which was a great applicant. We all were so excited about her because she's a clothing store. And then we went to the team at Edwards and got them excited. And she's going to open in Q1 2025. And then we've got Nostalgic, which is like a home goods store, and that's going to open, I think, second quarter. But the nice part is these are retailers that we're working with the landlord. We're actually participating at Downtown Columbus in the lease. But we're making sure through a city grant that we can help support them during those early years, which is when a lot of retailers turn over. 14 years, that's a great run that Milestone had. We hope that our tenants can get to that run. But the nice part is they are going in an area that is strong in residential already, that is getting even stronger by the day with everything that's being built in the Gay Street and Broad Street and Long Street areas. And then they're going to be on the site of the future Capitol line, which phase 1, we're already through schematic design, working on design development, breaking ground next year and opening at the end of 26, beginning of 27. So complete redesign of Gay Street in the public sector as well.
Okay, Jim, question for you. Talking about big picture, we talk so much about residential growth. Most of it that we see going up downtown and over in Franklinton are rentals, they're apartments. You know, Amy, you talked about empty nesters, which I'm seeing move into my building now. People that, you know, their kids are off in college, they don't want their big homes in the suburbs anymore, they want to have a nice place downtown, but a lot of them don't want to rent forever. And so I think there's a big question there about the cost effectiveness of it, of why we have so many rentals going up compared to new condos being built. Is there a market for that?
There is a market. It's a long, loaded question, but I think a big part of the types of condominium developments that are going up in other cities, they believe that they can build that, they can pay for it, and they can make money, and they're professional condominium developers. They're not here in this market. And so it's a different business. And so the for rent business is a lot more streamlined from a financing standpoint, and from, you know, different types of developers can develop rentals a lot easier than they can condominiums or dense condominiums. That would be my comment on that. But I think that what I wanted to add about what Nick was saying, if you think about Columbus and you think about creating an experience here, we have to be a bit more bold, and we have to put the infrastructure. We went on a trip, Amy and I and others went on a trip to New York, and one basic thing was green and trees and greenery and coverage. We have one of the lowest cover in our downtown of canopy of a town our size. In New York, where there were trees and parks along the streets, there were people. Where there were not people. And those are some of the things where we can control, that creates a very walkable, pleasant experience and a safe experience when you have more people then the stores will have more footfall and be able to cater to the neighborhood. So that's one thing that I think we can do to help. And intuitively, I feel like everybody could get on board with that. How do we do that? How do we just increase a basic stat of our downtown, which is tree coverage and more islands, more trees, more greenery. So that's one. The other piece that I found, we haven't had a hospitality market here, and that might sound, from a hotel standpoint, sound strange, but we haven't had a hospitality market like in other big cities where locals go to the hotels, they go to the restaurants, there's experiences, and it becomes a node of activity. And we've done these projects like the Junto and other cities, and we brought it here, and it's taking off. People are really understanding that. And what I'm trying to tell everybody that I can tell is about tourism. Tourism is a huge opportunity for our city to get people to come here. We have one of the highest one-night stay percentages of any city our size. It's like over 64%. And that's because they're not staying to go to that great restaurant the next day, or go to Veterans Museum, or go to COSI, go to the Ohio State game, meet with friends, and thinking of, a place to go. Well, how do you do that? You have to have places for them to stay and experiences for them to have, and great restaurants that are unique, that are special, that they're going to drive into. That tourism supports these businesses that we're talking about. That tourism also gets taxed like hell. I know when you go to other cities, guess what? You're not voting in that city, so they tax everybody that comes. That's an export. That supports our city. And then if there's investment here, and people, the other piece that I don't want to miss is jobs. People when they come here and they stay and they experience the city and they have a good experience, they then can imagine themselves living here. So we're a vibrant city that's growing in so many amazing ways that we need to attract talent here, and so they got to be able to imagine themselves here. So it is multifaceted, not just the retail. It's we have to, in the center of our city, create a destination where people want to come that fuels all kinds of things, and tourism is a big opportunity. It's an export. It's one of the few exports we have, and we need to invest. But we need to invest in infrastructure. If we do it, there's local developers that are doing great things. If those developers do well, then it attracts capital from other cities, other big cities. The developers will bring their condominiums here if they believe they can create value. That's what their investors are asking them to do. And when you get that momentum, you then get the investment in the infrastructure, and that starts to build a tipping point that will take a lot of the great ground game, that a lot of the work that the city's done, Downtown Inc., the residents, the developers, all of that, and connect it. And while downtown Columbus is big, it's got a lot of interesting nodes. You got Italian Village, Short North, German Village, the Discovery District, the Peninsula. I mean, these and the Capitol Line is going to help connect all of those. I think that we have a big opportunity here, and we're really close. But are we too comfortable? Are we too comfortable? Because we have to be bold. We have to go forward and invest some more in the infrastructure and have a real intentional plan so that we can attract outside dollars to the city.
Okay. All right. So at this point, what we're going to do is, I know a lot of you probably have questions for this great panel. So we're going to start the questions online. So if you're online and streaming with us, you can go into the chat and enter your questions there. If you're here in the audience, make your way there to the back and to the microphone. We'll start taking audience questions. And as we get ready for your questions from the audience, I'll ask you all one final question. And this is a dream scenario for each of you. If you could, in any situation, what would be your dream retail situation or store, what you would like to see open up in downtown Columbus? I'll tell you what mine is. And everyone's going to groan, but I was just in Chicago last week, and it just reminded me, because I'm still sad that Lazarus is gone. So in a dream world, I would like to see a department store with restaurants inside and bars come back to downtown Columbus. It would be wonderful. To not have to go to Eastern or Polaris, and to be able to go and get everything you need in one beautiful building and then have lunch and cocktails. Okay, Amy? We'll come back to you, Nick.
I mean, I think I'm going to less use a brand and more use a staple. I'd like to be able to, if I need to pick up something, I had somewhere I could go. And whether that was something because my shoe heel broke or something because I wanted to get a new purse and I had 30 minutes. I think that's what I'd really like to do. I always, when I have a choice, always tried to shop downtown. I always try to support the downtown businesses. I've got our team here, they choose their doctors and their dentists downtown because we want to do that. And I think that is a missing piece right now. Someone said they were at a conference and they forgot about, and there was nowhere for them to walk to. But somehow we have 3 wedding dress shops. So if you're looking to get married, downtown's the place for you. I just wish we had something else.
Jim?
Man, it's hard to pick one thing. And probably, I think it's both and. So obviously, like amazing restaurants. If we could really build on some of the restaurants that are doing well downtown, people are coming, and really drive some nationally recognized restaurants to the downtown. Something that's attainable, that would enable you to go to lunch and have your drinks, and then the stores would come around you and you could buy art and do all those things.
So I would say I would like to see a proper speakeasy in downtown. And one in particular is, well, they're all across the country, but one in particular is called Red Phone Booth. If you haven't heard it, look it up. It's a great place down in Atlanta. It's a cigar shop, but you go through the phone booth and it's a whole thing. And so I would like to see some type of experience like that. So a good cocktail and a good cigar, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I lived in Nashville, and they had a couple of speakeasies that did very well. People love that concept of kind of going into a secret space, and sure. All right, do we have a line of people there in the back? A few questions from the audience? Let's get started.
I want to make sure that my microphone's on. It is. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Jessica and the panelists, thank you so much for today's conversation. My name is Sophia Pfiffner. I'm the CEO and president of the Columbus Metropolitan Club. We have a slew of questions. I just want to remind those who are interested in the audience, feel free to line up behind me if you'd like to ask a question. And for those who are online, please feel free to type them into the chat. And remember that questions at the CMC end with a what? A question mark. And they're also 30 seconds, so please, no monologues here. We're going to kick off today's conversation with a question about Milestone 229. Knowing that this space will be vacated, what's the city's plans to find a new tenant for that space, knowing that's a core feature of our downtown riverfront?
Well, thank you for that question. We are, I think, in the process of looking at potentially doing an RFP for that space because it is owned by the city. We want to have some type of process. One, I think that's healthy to see what is actually out there, and then also to get some buy-in and see what we can attract. So I think look forward to that process. That'll be in concert really with our Department of Finance and Management, who holds all our leases, but also Recreation and Parks, who actually owns the park, and I believe also our friends at DCI will be helping us in that charge as well.
Hello, and happy to be here today. I'm Shoshana Goldberg, and I'm a professor at Ohio State, The Ohio State. So my question today is that many cities have done something called a cultural plan. And that has to do with where all three sectors come together, public, private, and nonprofit, and vision the way that the creative economy can move a city forward. Many cities have done this: Chicago, New York, Toronto, many cities around North America. Do you think that this is the right time for Columbus to do a cultural plan?
I have not heard of that, but I would say I know I would be open to it. And I say that because there's so many other elements that are already blossoming. I saw my friends with GCAC here earlier, so there's a public master art plan for public art. We just did our entire downtown strategic plan as well, and so many other plans that are happening around the public realm and public spaces. And so I know I would be open to that, because I think there's always been this question of what is Columbus's identity? And for me, I know it sounds corny, but Columbus is an experience. And it's anything that you want, we have it here, as many of you in this room know. And so that idea of when you come here without any type of expectations, and then you're blown away by the fact that we have nightlife, we have great restaurants if you're a foodie, we're only a 30-minute drive to wilderness and places like Hocking Hills where you can hike and have all of that. So Columbus truly is an experience. So I think that cultural study that you're talking about would help us, one, with that identity question, but two, how do we knit all of that together in a neat way with all of these other plans that are coming together to really create not only just a great downtown, but a great city?
Talk to you about that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Angelina Vega. I work with Downtown Columbus, Inc. I also have a boutique called Plus Size Pretty that I recently had to move exclusively online. And one of the things that I noticed while I had my boutique open was that there was a lot of people who had accessibility issues. So I wanted to know what Columbus is planning on doing as far as accessibility with parking for people who are disabled, who need to be a little bit closer, if there's any plans to have more accessible parking and more accessible parking spots.
Thank you for that. I know one of the things we are looking at the city is how do we leverage the publicly owned garages in the city of Columbus, and particularly in downtown, to, one, incentivize parking, but also to ensure that that's not a barrier for folks that come into downtown. But also, I think this is about not simply about parking and accessibility. Accessibility is also about mobility and how we move around our downtown, whether you're on foot, on bike, or in a car. And so great projects like the Capitol Line, which I know that Amy can speak more to, really looks at the entire landscape of the city. So not just how we're moving cars around our downtown, but how are we moving people around our downtown? And another big piece of that, I will say, especially for those with disabilities, is that this investment in Link Us, which is going to be the city's first time ever having mass modal transportation, having that be a hub, having that be an amenity for those folks to not even have to think about getting in a car, because they could utilize public transportation to get to these spaces. So I think we have to think about it not just simply about parking accessibility or parking spaces, but how are we navigating and traversing our entire downtown landscape. And Amy, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think it's a great question. I would just add about the council member's right. As we look at how you can get around downtown, sometimes it is parking, and I think the city, Justin Goodwin, they're really looking at spaces and the time you can use them and whether you can re-up and making sure there's appropriate ADA spaces within downtown. I also think, though, it's the journey, and I said this before, if you're walking and you're feeling safe to get there, if the beautification is there, if the lights are on, if it's the right candle, if it's the right foot candle to get there. I think all of those are really important. One of the things that we've noticed ourselves with our own cameras that we have is that sometimes our environmental design prohibits people from feeling safe because we allow the beautiful flowers to get too tall and people don't feel safe walking by it. So I think there are a lot of things that we can do when we talk about accessibility and making sure that people feel comfortable walking. And then I do think that they are looking at the on-street parking and making sure that it's not just the right number of spaces, but that people are not staying there for too long so it can turn over for retail.
All right, we have several more questions online. So this question is really focused on innovation and equity. Nancy asked, will the new development downtown accommodate low-income residents?
Yes, and I think one of the awards that were given out today was a partnership in Topiary Park, which is 100% affordable. I think that there's also nonprofit developers that are looking at sites on Gay Street as well. So I think that when we talk about the mix of housing, it's the types of housing, right? Condos, apartments, and the such, but it's also about the price points as well. And I know that this council, as well as the administration, are laser focused, and again, want to give kudos to DCI as well for sharing that vision in us that downtown also has to be affordable and accessible to all folks. And so that is top of mind for us. Of wherever we can squeeze in affordability, we are doing that, and that is top of mind.
I mean, the council member's 100% right. In addition to Topiary Park Crossing, which is 60 to 100% AMI, we've got the YMCA, and that's something that we're working on with Woda Cooper, and they've got a plan for 120 units that go all the way down to 30% AMI, and there even are 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms in that. I know CMHA is doing the former United Way building. I think they're calling it Aspire, and so that is on 3rd. And then we've got our traditional all-use housing. When you talk about Commons at Grant, Commons at Buckingham, the National Church Residencies projects. And so I think that that's working even on the peninsula because of the city project. The peninsula offers 80 and 100% units. So I think it's an important component, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to maybe share that there is a lot of things going on. And then there's naturally affordable housing in the Discovery District.
And I do want to give a shout out to my colleague, Councilmember Favor, chair of our housing, because also when we talk about putting affordability into these projects, it's not just all one unit. Right? There was a time where we would talk about affordable housing. It's like, okay, well, all 10 of these studio apartments are going to be affordable. Now it has to be a mix of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or whatever that mix is in that building. Also has to be a mix of affordability as well to accommodate all family sizes.
Hi, my name is Brooks, and I'm opening a high-end housewares store downtown at the corner of Gay and High Street that will be opening in March. And I'm just sort of curious. I think funding is a really important element that contributes to the success of downtown and the emergence of new businesses opening, especially local minority-owned businesses. And I know that there's the Downtown Ground Floor Growth Initiative, but I'm kind of curious to know if any of the 3 of you are able to speak to actual cash grant opportunities that are available to business owners that are looking to open businesses. As someone who's opening a business downtown, I think funding is a really important element, and it takes a certain level of privilege to open a business downtown. And so I'm lucky that I'm in the position where I'm able to do so. But I think it would just be nice to hear your guys' input on the importance of offering actual cash grant opportunities to people who are looking to open businesses.
Yeah, that is the $1 million question that I get all the time. As the Economic Development and Small Business Chair, I think most small businesses think I have like a checkbook in my back pocket that says City of Columbus on it. But grants are the hardest thing. And you're absolutely right. It is something that's necessary. I know there are a lot of vehicles at the state level that have very low interest rate lending. I will say that my office has been piloting now over this past year, and we're looking to roll it out more broadly, is a grant. It's up to $5,000. It's a capacity building grant for small businesses, specifically for equipment, anything that's other than personnel. So it could be equipment, it could be furniture, fixtures, it could be any of that. It could be even down payment to a larger purchase that you may need as a small business. And so we are looking to scale that program. Again, that's a small amount, but every, I think, dollar amount counts. But grants are the hardest thing for anyone when it comes to small business. And so that is something that we're looking at, of how do we partner with more folks to be able to get more grant dollars in. But I would look at some of the lending, low interest rate lending that's at SBA, as well as our friends at the state development, the Office of Development at the State House as well.
I mean, ground floor growth does provide, it's less of the cash in hand that you mentioned and more that it really does take care of those early years and helping to fund the rent, buying down the rent for the entire portion of the lease, and then helping to fund the rent up front. And so we're in the middle of phase 2 and hoping to have that announcement in January about who the tenants and landlords are for that process.
And specifically for ground floor growth, I mean, I think we knew as a city that we had to be intentional coming out of the pandemic. that those spaces would continue to sit vacant if we didn't have an intentionality to unapologetically invest in the small business ecosystem. And so it's those kinds of things where I want to, again, thank my partners at the administration who helped really be the brainchild of that, as well as external partners like Amy and team at DCI. But also, I don't want to gloss over, too, this is a true public-private partnership when we talk about the Ground Floor Growth Initiative, because landlords like Jeff Edwards and like Michael Tomko, who stepped up, they're not just landlords, but they've been partners with us every step of the way, working with these businesses hand in hand. And then also, I will have to give a shout out to Columbus Empowerment Center. Kim Knights and Derek Pinnell are here too, because the third component of that Ground Floor Growth Initiative is providing those businesses with technical assistance all throughout the first 3 years of business as well. Because our goal with this program and what we're trying to do in downtown is for it to be a catalyst, not for it to be a pilot. Our goal is not for them just to open their doors and here's the keys, and 3 years later their doors are closed. What we will see success with all the investment that we're making is 5 years from now, when Quincy's doors are still open. 5 years from now, when I can walk in to Revolvery and get that $500 blanket that my wife is probably going to want to put on our couch. I'm just joking about that, but that's really what success will look like, is that these businesses are sustainable. Not that their doors just open, but they're still open years to come.
And we know it's hard to open a small business. It is additionally hard to open a small business, brick and mortar, downtown, if you haven't done it before. And so there are things like, should I be open during a parade? Should I be open when the holidays, because holiday lights are on, should I be open later? Should I have a special event during that time? How do I deal with loading? How do I deal with employee parking? All of those things Kim and Derek are working hand in hand with them on, and marketing is different. We have found that you really need to be social. You need to do reels. You need to market in a completely different way, because you're really trying to draw the people who are already down here to come to your place. And so we look forward to meeting with you and working with you. We're excited that you're moving in to Gay and High.
We have about 4 minutes and a slew of questions. So we're going to keep the questions coming, and the next one is Nick's.
Good afternoon. My name is Nick Sheriff. I work with the Columbus Chamber of Commerce Foundation. Continuing the discussion about small and minority-owned businesses, you guys identified a lot of the challenges that folks face when trying to come downtown. Could you expound more on what partners besides the city could be doing to help address those challenges?
Yeah, besides the city, I think that some of the challenges are there's a challenge in getting the word out. So we've worked hard with Isa at 3 Bites and with Douglas at Black Kahawa, but I'm talking with people and they're still not hearing it. So I think we need help getting the word out. I think we need help with one of the things I know Kim and Derek are going to be looking at is how can we help people with a standardized accounting team? How do we help people with a standardized, legal team if they have HR questions? Several of us in the room went to Bell Fountain, and you might be thinking, Jim mentioned that we went to New York. We did that too, but we also went to the tiny little Bell Fountain because they have figured out a secret to success, at least of what works there. And one of the things they found is having a point of contact so that this small business, with all the things they have to do with suppliers and pricing and customers and employees, they have one place that they can call. And that's really what Kim and Derek are becoming for Ground Floor Growth. But also, I'm going to put a little plug in, they're for any downtown business that is opening that really has questions like that. They are going to be that small business incubator. And I think that's what we need. We need more ambassadors out there telling people that, that there's a place to go for questions and there's a solution. You're not the only one having the problem. There's a solution.
And I'll say another area that could help is financing. I mean, I think a lot of these spaces sat empty because of the way that financing works on these developments. And so a lot of folks are not going to take a risk on, say, a new business because they don't necessarily have the balance sheet. And so I think if we can get lenders to start thinking about our small businesses or emerging businesses and see them as not necessarily a risk, but see it as an opportunity, I think that would help also supercharge getting more unique businesses into some of these spaces.
We have literally 1 minute, and I can't tell you how many questions we have from grocery stores and downtown needing more opportunities for people to buy and purchase groceries and fresh foods. But we're going to end with this question from Ariana. I'm curious, is there an opportunity to discuss some of the upcoming programming initiatives to help drive the retail experience downtown?
Well, I can share some good news that on December 7th, the city had a great event called Winterfest in Bicentennial Park. We had holiday lights. We had some things at the Commons. We had Santa at Lazarus. We had ice skating, undercurrent, and we had 120,000 people come downtown that day. So a lot of the activities are there. I think what we're seeing is proof of concept. The DORA is in place, and I think all those things are happening.
And I just want to say this, because I know we're over time, but I have to end by saying this. This conversation is very fruitful, and I think I want to emphasize this. Investing in downtown is not at the expense of our neighborhoods. Downtown is the heart of our city. Its success is our other neighborhood success. Many times when we have these conversations, it seems like downtown versus everybody else. But in this case, we have to make sure we make these investments. When we think about Columbus, it is a living, breathing organism, just like you and I. North, south, east, west. To the north, we have a great brain in Ohio State and Battelle. To our south, we have Rickenbacker, gives us fast feet, we're a logistics hub. To our east and west, we have great, strong neighborhoods in our biceps, like Franklinton in the Near East Side. But none of that works unless blood pumps to all those other organs. Downtown is that heart, and it has to be strong enough to pump blood to all the rest of those organs. So downtown success is our entire city's success, and it is our entire region's success.
It is, so make it happen. No pressure, guys. Thanks. Thank you. That's a wrap. Lisa?
That was terrific. I don't know about you, but I feel like we have no shortage of talent on the public and private side working on these important questions. So thank you all for being here to participate in the discussion, and to our panel for caring so much about this and leaving us excited and motivated as we go into 2025. So real quick to wrap, I want to make sure we thank again Harrison Smith Legacy and Civic Engagement Fund, Downtown Columbus Incorporated, the Edwards Companies, and Rockbridge. Thank you again for making this conversation possible. Also, the Center for Human Kindness at the Columbus Foundation and the Columbus Dispatch as our live stream partners. Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it. Nice to have you on the panel. Amy, good job. Jimmy, good job. And our host, Jessica, we really appreciate you being here today to chew through these topics. Everybody, have a really, really good holiday season. Wishing us all the best in 2025, and let's get after it, right? Thank you all. Have a good rest of your day.